Welcome to all of you out there, astrology friends. Welcome to this video about the horoscopes of August in general, and then for all the 12 signs, what is really going on in August. Let's have a look at it, and precise, concise, not too long video, but like the clues and the ingredients of the month of August. Now, two big things you could say are going on during the month of August. First of all, I want to talk again. I already made a video about that. You can look it up in my playlist. Jupiter square Saturn. It is exact during the month of August, round and about the 19th. It's going to be exact, but you're feeling it the whole month. It's Jupiter at 17 degrees of Gemini and squaring up to Saturn at 17 degrees of Pisces. So that square is very important. We're going to have another square of that, Jupiter square Saturn, in December on the 25th. But now is the first time. And the whole month evolves around that. And a second thing that is very important is the Mercury retrograde. So we're going to have a Mercury retrograde as well. Let's start with that, with the Mercury retrograde for all of us. This is happening in Virgo, in the sign of Virgo, around and about 4 degrees of the sign of Virgo. And it's around the 5th, the 6th of August that we are having this motion back, retrograde of Mercury, the mind, the communication. So it is one of those times again, usually 3 times a year that Mercury goes retrograde, but the specifics of it is that it's now in its own sign. So it means that it's really strong, it's about detail, it's about analyzing. So all of us, it's a certain area in our life are ready to analyze, to kind of into the detail, going into the detail, and the devil is in the detail. That's very much Mercury retrograde in Virgo. And to kind of dig a little bit deeper in that way and understand what's going on there. So it's a reassessment time for sure, depending on the area of life, of course, but we're all going to have an area of life where we want to go a little bit deeper, when we want to understand things, and when we want to reassess things. So when Mercury goes direct again, which will be at the end of the month of August, around and about the 29th of August, Mercury goes direct again. And then we're going to see the positivities of the work that we did during the month of August, of the rethinking and the reassessing. So yes, it's that period of time for contracts, for travel. It's not the best, but again, that this don't let your life predict, what you can do and you can't do. It's just an energy. It's just an energy that you will have to, if you do travel or if you do sign a contract during a retrograde, after that, 8 out of 10 times you will have to review it and make adjustments accordingly. And that's not life-threatening, is it? So, but it's not a nice thing to go through. No one likes that. But so that's the energy. And of course, because it's at the beginning of Virgo, 4 degrees of Virgo, when it goes retrograde, it will get back into the sign before Virgo, which is Leo. So the retrograde during the month of August is going to be a lot through the sign of Leo. It goes actually back until 21 degrees of Leo, and then it stops there on the 29th of August, and then it goes direct again. Now we're going to get out of that 4 degrees of Virgo shadow period only on the 12th of September. So yes, it is a time of slowing down. It is a time of the nitty-gritty, it's a time of those little things that can really make our life, when we do it the right way, and when we slow down the communication, the thinking, and when we take time to do something different, we will, in the long run, especially after the 12th of September, benefit from that enormously. So I'm going to have a look at what area of life that would be for your specific sign. And then the second thing that is, of course, very important is this Jupiter square Saturn. Now, again, I already made a whole video of that, but which is all about, in a nutshell, it's about realistic optimism. It's about slow growth. It's about growth, but about slow, steady, disciplined growth, slowly but surely. But the thing is here, with this Jupiter square Saturn, Mars and Venus are going to be involved. So this shows that for all of us, there's relationship material at the surface here as well, because Mars and Venus are represented by the lovers and are represented by connections and relationships. So Mars will be conjoining with Jupiter, actually. It will have a conjunction, Mars conjunct Jupiter. And then Venus will be in Virgo. So we're going to have Mars conjunct Jupiter, squaring Saturn, and then Venus is going opposing Saturn, and Venus is going to square Mars. We call that in astrology a T-square. And a T-square is tension. And we all think, oh, tension, we don't like it. But tension is there for a reason. Tension is there because it wants us to push us towards changes. So yes, a lot of changes in relationships as well. A lot of things that we want to keep in a relationship, which is Saturn. Saturn wants to keep things as it is, and it wants to work hard to have safety and stability. But there's also expansion, which is Jupiter, and new stuff and growth and hope and wishes for a new future. So it's about that time sharing between growth and between stability, especially in relationships, and especially with Mars square Venus, because Mars square Venus, typically, what is this all about? It's very simple. It's about the give and the take. Mars square Venus is a very passionate aspect. And when we have it in a positive way, we can use it to be creative, to be passionate, and but we have to be very conscious of that balance between the giving and the taking. Mars is action, Venus and individuality. Venus wants to please, and it also wants to serve, because it's in Virgo after all. So it's finding that balance in relationships. So that's going to come up. When you, for instance, give too much and you always say, yes, it's okay, we'll go to the cinema tonight. Yes, you want that movie? I don't really actually love that movie, but yes, I'm going to go. And then the next time you do it again and you do it again, it's going to cause friction. And for both parties, for the one that always is taking too much and the other one that is always giving too much. So if that has been a pattern in your relationship, and of course we all have many relationships, not only love relationships, but sometimes where we give too much. And then this is the perfect aspect to restore it. Or we always have relationships as well where we take too much, where we are a bit too much of a taker. And then it will show itself by this person that is going to stand up for themselves and will have enough. So yes, tension. And especially around the midst of the month, because that is when this Jupiter-Saturn square is happening exactly. It's around the 19th, but also that Mars-Venus that is involved is also around that time. So we could roughly say between the 13th and the 14th of August, up until like the 22nd, 23rd of August, that period of time is with a lot of tension. And a lot of tension to restore the balance when it was, a bit too much like this or too much like this, whatever you want to call it, to restore it. So don't see it as a negative thing. These are energies, these are planets, and they're not doing anything with us. It's just an energy. And we can do what we want with that energy. We can fight it, or we can, I certainly advise to embrace this energy so that we can restore, especially in relationships, what has gone out of balance. And also maybe too much growth and no security, or maybe too much security and no growth at all. There's a restoration here happening with this Jupiter square Saturn. So yes, a lot of tension around the midst of the month. And what it also shows is some sort of if this wasn't already enough, right? So we are rethinking stuff, we are reassessing stuff, which is a good thing, to improve it after the Mercury goes direct. We are with this square between growth and stability, and also in relationships. And then the third thing you could say is, in the midst of that period, that pocket of time in the midst of the month, we're having a full moon, which is not so rare, but the full moon is squaring Uranus. So the moon will be in Aquarius and it's going to square Uranus, and the sun will be in Leo, and it's going to square Uranus as well. So another T-square. And this is from a whole other, you could say, ingredient. This is an ingredient of liberation. This is an ingredient of freeing up. And this is happening around also the 19th of the month. So we are having lots of squares, full squares there, that you could say is a consequence of all that tension, is that we are going to take actions for sure because of Mars in Gemini, with the Jupiter there, Mars conjoining with Jupiter, but also Mars squaring Saturn. So, but we're going to take actions that, again, I can only recommend slow actions, but actions to do new things, but slowly and surely and well thought, for sure. And that's going to liberate us. So there's a lot of liberation as well. There's a lot of freedom here with this full moon square Uranus. But it is not that freedom comes only when we have that courage to make those changes. And that freedom comes, you could say, a bit out of the blue as well, because it's Uranus after all, and it can go very quickly. But with the you could say the order that we're having during this month, it's very simple that we're first going to do those changes with our actions, with our mind, and then the liberation comes. That might be even a little bit bigger than we have expected. So quite a busy month where a lot of mixed energies are happening. And definitely if you are someone who's saying, hey, I want to make some changes, and is this the energy? Oh yes, it is. It is a bit challenging to work through these energies, but if you know what's going on, you can embrace them, and you can go step by step. At the end of the month, we're having, and I mean really the end of the month, between the 26th of the month up until the 29th, we have Venus in Virgo making all these beautiful aspects. Yes, it opposes Neptune, which is a bit like, a bit like idealism, but Venus will trine Uranus, and it will also trine Pluto. So that's where the stability comes again in relationships. So what a story, right? What a story. It's definitely a lot to talk about. But let's have a look now for the 12 signs. And don't forget to watch the video of Jupiter square Saturn, because the Jupiter square Saturn video can really explain a lot to you as well. By the way, I also have a promotion still running now, because it's about Jupiter square Saturn. So it's called the Abundance Reading. You can find all the details below. I will put a link to my website if you're interested for that. And it's all about this Jupiter square Saturn in your chart, and where it is, and what this is all about for you personally, if you want a more personal reading. Now let's get started for Aries. So let's start with the Mercury retrograde, where all this reassessment is going on. It's going on in your 6th house, which is a bit of your day-to-day routines, your work, your health. All those routines, it's a good time for you to reassess them, and it's in the beginning going to be a little bit more challenging to assess them and to reassess them, but it's a typical thing to look at your diet, to look at the things that are not so well, and to go to the detail of that, and to restore it, and to make new habits. Lots of you will have new jobs as well when Mercury goes direct, and which will be, as I said, around the 29th of August. So lots of your day-to-day stuff, which Aries people are not really keen on, because it's a very practical thing, and it's a very, it's a slowing down of those things as well. Slowing down of work could mean that as well, and rethinking, but do it, because after that period of time, and especially after the 12th of September, you're going to see a lot of things going forward for you in a better way, in a more efficient way. Now, Venus is in your 6th house as well, so in the house of Virgo. So that means that, and that's a good thing, that combination of the retrograde and then the Venus, because it shows that with Venus in the 6th house, especially if you want a new job, another job, you can use your charm, you can use your, yes, people will notice that more, and you can find yourself in jobs that you love more than others, than in the past. The Jupiter square Saturn is from the 3rd house to the 12th house. So yes, expansion for you in your 3rd house, for sure. So everything that has to do, and especially with Mars there, with learning, with travel, short trips, communication, siblings, the neighborhood, and all of that. If you're having your own business, this is about expanding it through the media, the social media, and whatnot. But Saturn blocks it there from the 12th house. So it means your patterns, your unconscious patterns can play a role in holding you back a little bit. Now, if that is causing you nervousness and frustration and whatnot, see it as a necessary thing. Because Saturn in the 12th house has its joy, and it's not always a bad thing at all. But it's about, those patterns that you have now more discipline to, and I'm talking about old patterns that are not longer suiting you, and patterns of escapism, patterns that you go towards where you don't feel well, and these can help you for sure. Now, Taurians, this is this Mercury retrograde in your 5th house. Now, for Taurus, because you're an earth sign, this Mercury retrograde is rather a good one. But it's still a retrograde. So yes, you have Mercury and Venus in that 5th house, which is Venus in the 5th is nice, it's enjoyable, and the 5th house is about enjoying already. So it's about hobbies and children and projects, and you can definitely go into that, and romance as well. So you could start this romance for sure. But with the Mercury retrograde, it shows that you're going to rethink stuff. So whether it is love relationship or your hobbies or whatever, you're going to rethink them. It's a good time to reassess them. Maybe you will go back to an old hobby and pick it up again. Yes, this is a typical thing of lovers can come back to you. Not all of them, and don't panic if you don't like it. You just shut the door, you don't open them. But it's definitely possible that you are reassessing a love relationship and that you saw a certain person in a different way. You're going to see them in a different way. And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you can really think like, oh, what is this person all about? And I don't like them. And then Mercury goes direct and then you start liking them. It's not always the other way around. Now, the Jupiter square Saturn is from the 2nd house to the 11th house. So the expansion for you and the actions taken now for you are in that 2nd house, your house, the Taurian house. So that is finances, that is your resources, that is your worth. So the sense of self. And so this is very important for you to develop, hustling for the money, hustling for your own resources and owning that. Now, Saturn is blocking it in the 11th house, which could mean that goals need to be restricted there. Also groups of people, or that you will have to leave an old group that you belong to because it's not longer fitting your values anymore. The 2nd house, your values. It could be that you've been for years and years, you're sitting in a group of people that you call your friends, and now you're seeing the not so good things of them, and that you kind of do a little bit of a restriction there. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not because these people are bad, but you have changed, and that is the consequences of that. But all in all, a pretty good month for the Taurians. Gemini is a very important month for you for sure, because your ruler is going backwards in the 4th house, right? So it's in Virgo, and it's going backwards in the 4th house. So everything that has to do with your home, your family, you are revisiting this. You could literally, if you live in another country, for instance, you could go back to your home country. For others, they could literally be thinking about their home and what to do about it, what to to do with the home, maybe to restore it, to reorganize it, maybe to sell it and to buy it and whatnot. The best thing to do is, of course, doing this after the 29th of August. But a lot of thinking also of family connections, parents. There could be different, you could say a connection changing here with a parent, and because of circumstances, because of things that you are talking about and that you need to revisit in the relationship. So a lot of deep emotional stuff as well, because the fourth house is a water house. So you could be rethinking your youth, for instance, and deep patterns from within, deep emotional patterns that you are kind of taking, seeing through that lens of the detail and what's going on here. And I want to understand myself better, because that's the fourth house, it's your core. Venus is there as well, so it's a good time if you would restore or change the home, to beautify the home with some nice curtains, a beautiful painting, or whatever it is. Now, the Jupiter square Saturn, Jupiter is in your sign, Mars is in your sign. It's all about you. It's all about you going a new path, and it squares up to Saturn in the 10th house. So the restriction could be work. It could be your career is restricting you for all the plans that you're having in your life, because the first house is life path. It could also mean a life partner, that you want to expand with that partner, that you want to grow with that partner. And it's all possible, but remember, slowly but surely. And Saturn is there at the top of your chart, so you could be dealing with maybe bosses that are a bit too authoritarian, or work that is a bit more heavy than normal. The thing is, don't give up is actually the best advice to give. Don't give up. Work on your expansion. Work on putting your boundaries there with Mars in your first house. But be aware of other politics playing out in, especially if you do work for someone. If you have your own business, it could simply mean that the business is now you have to do some things to get it right, and that demands quite a lot of energy. But you will have energy enough. It's a bit like you will be a little bit frustrated, and you will feel that, but you're pushing yourself through this for sure. And especially also relationships, make sure that there's a balance between give and take. Cancerians, this Mercury retrograde is in your third house, so you could be, the third house is short trips. You could be going back to a country that you already visited, or a city, a short trip that you want to do, and you're going back to that. And but it's a busyness with that Mercury in the third house. So if you have your own business, for instance, there could be a lot of emails and going backwards and forwards, and you have to do a lot of calling and mails and writing and whatnot. And the Venus is there as well. So the communications are quite well, and it's quite lovely what you, so if you're doing a short trip, it's very lovely. If you're doing communication, there's going to be a lot of empathy involved here, and a lot of, you're going to watch what you're going to say very well with that Venus there in Virgo in your third house. Now, Jupiter square Saturn, the 12th house is where Jupiter is. So you're expanding when it comes to your spirituality, when it comes to you taking care of yourself on a more spiritual level. That is Mars, Jupiter there. It could create a little bit of anxiousness when it comes to sleeping, because Mars in the 12th house is so busy. It's busy in the unconscious, and it can make you a little bit more restless. But I think all in all, there's a lot of opportunity for you to relax more in a new way, and that is very new for you. Now, the Saturn square is in your 9th house, so the square to all of this is your mind, your belief system. So your belief system could be a little bit more rigid than normal, and that kind of is your test of having the right belief system. So being very critical towards your own belief system is a good thing, because it doesn't mean to say, because the comfort of your belief system of years and years and years, it might be a comfortable the way that you think, deeply, a belief system, but it might not be the right one. So you are here to question this, and it can cause a lot of aha moments for you and seeing the world in a different way. Leos, you're having this Mercury retrograde in your second house. So this is a good time for everything that has to do with your finances, to revisit this, to reassure that your financial situation is going to be more stable after this retrograde is gone. And don't forget that the Mercury retrograde will also go into your sign. The whole of August is a lot about you reinventing yourself, yes, but also reinventing, I mean, with the part that you want to take in your life, whether it is relationships, work, everything, because the first house is your life part. But it's a lot about your dignity and your values as well. What is important for you, and not for other people or this person or another person, but for you. What do you value very strongly? And it's good for, giving yourself permission to think about this. So financial contracts and all of that for you is typically the best for you after the end of August, the 29th of August. So for signing contracts and so on. Venus is there as well. So in your second house. So for money, it is actually not a bad thing at all. It could mean that because of the, structure that you have restructured, of the financial structure, I mean, you're going to have more, attracting more money and more abundance in your life, which is a good thing for sure. And of course, you're going to have that new moon on the 4th already of August. So there is a whole new beginning for you, for sure. And also in relationships. With the full moon on the end of the month at the 27th, definitely freeing up energy. If you're being in a relationship that you felt stuck, that you felt was toxic, not good, whatever, there is opportunity to free yourself from that. Maybe if you've been alone for many, many years, there could be a freeing up of that as well, that you are going to engage in a new connection. And that's beautiful as well. Jupiter square Saturn for you is the 11th house squaring to the 8th house. So expansion for sure in the 11th house with friends, with your goals for the future. And it is a very optimistic energy, but it's kind of slowed down by the 8th house, which is the house where Saturn is. And it is the house of fear. It is the house of vulnerability. So being vulnerable might not be the easiest for you, but it's actually the solution of breaking through that fear so that you can show your vulnerabilities, maybe with some friends, and but of course in intimacy with a partner as well. And that has to do with opening up of your heart, and especially in relationship when you have been hurt. This could be now the time, and especially in August, to restore that opening up and that protection, happening at the same time. Virgos, what a month for you, with your Mercury retrograde in your sign. If you have planets around 4 degrees, you will feel this very, very strongly, this Mercury retrograde. So this is you reviewing your whole life, you reviewing your relationships, your specific important relationships, your job, your purpose in life. All of this is, you're very used to those Mercury retrogrades, but now it's in your sign. And I've always, noticed when this happens, having a retrograde in your own sign, that it's a bit more important for you. So for you, it's a lot, and especially also with the new moon in your 12th house on the 4th of August in your 12th house in Leo, there's a lot of preparation, preparing for something new to come, and preparing for new steps in your life, preparing for when definitely Mercury goes direct, and definitely direct in your sign again after the shadow period after the 12th of September. Off you go. You will be thriving after that. If you take time now during this time to reassess and to relook and to go to the detail and to say, yes, what is good, what is not so good, what do I have to adjust? And you're good at that. Venus is in your sign, and that's lovely. During all this, you could say energy behind the scenes and maybe some retreat, maybe going on a long or a faraway vacation with that new moon in your 12th house. But Venus in the first house means that you're enjoying yourself, do some things to, but maybe some new clothes or a new haircut or whatever. But Venus in your first house means attracting more people into your life as well. Although it is under tension, this Venus with Saturn and a square to Jupiter, but it's that balance between giving and taking. So you as a Virgo, typically be aware, don't give too much, right? Make sure that you also receive and be open to receive. That is going to be your learning school, your spiritual lesson during this month. The Jupiter square Saturn is Jupiter in the 10th house, squaring Saturn in the 7th. This is a typical kind of mixture of a lot of growth possible for you on the level of work and career. If you're 71 and say, Veerle, I don't have a career, this is about how people see you, what your energy that you put out there in the world. And, we all put energy out, and that all has ripple effects for sure. But as I said, for a lot of people, it's work. So a lot of new stuff coming in here, possibilities for growth for sure. And Jupiter has to do with travel, has to do with foreign countries. It has to do with teaching and learning and spreading your knowledge for sure. But the Saturn there, I hate to say but the Saturn is here like slowing this a bit down. And that could mean your connection, your relationship. Maybe you are too focused on your work. The typical thing is that you are too focused on work, too focused on your growth, and your partner is saying, hey, I'm here as well, remember? What about me? Can I have some attention, please? It can be as simple as that, and that you have to balance this out. Another thing could be that you are working with a business partner and that you're growing and you're seeing that expansion, but that the business partner is actually really a little bit slowing you down for a reason. It is for a reason. Explore that and check that out, and don't radically say it's enough. Try to see where they're coming from and to make that balance for sure. Librans, this is happening, this Mercury retrograde in your 12th house. This is deep stuff. This is meditating. This is dreams, analyzing. This is a bit foggy, so your mind could be a little bit more foggy than usual. Accept it. It's the best time now to have a little bit of that foggy mind, to have a little bit more energy towards or focus towards meditation, towards understanding what is not understandable, or to kind of see the bigger picture. This could also mean that you feel a little bit lost in life, but that's okay. It's just a preparation and the reassessment of things, patterns that are a bit hidden for you. So your blind spots and reconnecting with those blind spots and understanding them, it's a treasure when you do that. Venus is also in the 12th house. So love could be involved here as well. And it could be love that cannot be shown, for instance, for whatever reasons. No judgment here. But Venus in the 12th, Mercury in the 12th, it could be literally thinking about the love, thinking about love towards a person that, is maybe not possible to show your love. And because the 12th house is hidden after all. So on a positive level, this is devotion. This is doing something for people that are in need and thinking about how you're going to do that. And don't forget, Venus is your ruler. So it's not the time here for you, dear Librans, in August to go fully and exploring and expanding. It's a lot about retreat. It's a lot about understanding yourself and about devotion as well towards people who are really, really in need. Now, Jupiter square Saturn is happening from your 9th house, where Jupiter is squaring to Saturn in the 6th. So you could be really, Jupiter in the 6th and, in the 9th, really expanding and traveling and learning. And maybe you are interested in going back to school and you're putting a lot of effort and energy into it. But Saturn there in the 6th house, it's typical, like your day-to-day routines. You must have the discipline. A typical thing could Could mean that you're deciding to go to school or a workshop or something that you need to learn, and that is gonna demand a lot of your discipline and a lot of your day-to-day routines to be way more structured. It's as simple as that. Could be related to your work as well. That work demands a lot of structure and routines that you're not really keen on, but that does expand your horizon, and that's a positive thing for sure. Scorpios, Mercury retrograde in the 11th. Now here, that's the friendship group. There could be a lot of reassessing that you're doing with friends that you are, we all have those times, and especially when we had gone through a bit of a challenging period, that we are reassessing the connections that we have with other people, the connections with friends, and the connections with social groups, associations. So you could be really saying, look, this friend, I'm not going to put any energy into that anymore, for whatever reason it is. You're really going to go to the root of the matter and to the nitty-gritty detail, because it's in Virgo. There could also be coming in, which is a more positive explanation, of an old friend coming back, and that is really a restoration of your or rekindling a friendship for sure. Can also mean your goals for the future, that some of them need to be reassessed. Is this goal that you had now for this year, is this still a good goal for you? This starting of the business, or this starting of, I don't know, whatever project. Is it a good thing? You're reassessing it, and that's definitely the best energy to do for. Venus in the 11th can also mean love. It can also mean falling in love with friends, and that, in combination with that Mercury retrograde, it could mean definitely that a friendship turns into something more with this, and you're reassessing with all of this energy here. So that's for sure. Another thing it can mean is, with Venus there as well, that you are having a lot of loveliness, enjoyment with friends and with new goals that you are reestablishing and reassessing. Now, the Jupiter square Saturn, Jupiter is in your 8th house, squaring Saturn to the 5th. So Jupiter in the 8th house with Mars there, that's really your cup of tea, because this is about your house. The 8th house is a house of life and death, and there could be a lot of activity around those topics. And that could be investments with other people, right? Because it's the resources of others. It could be you applying for a loan, or there could be an inheritance and a lot of activity around that as well, or a return of taxes. But also on a deeper level, it's growth on a psychological level. You battling your fears, for instance, that is Mars, Jupiter in the 8th. A lot of hidden activities, those. And I'm not judging here, so watch out with this Mars square Venus, that there could be hidden activity going on here. With the Venus in the 11th, friends, and Mars in the 8th, you could be dealing with some activities that, cannot be seen, and you have to keep it hidden for whatever reason, and that you're working through this. Now, Saturn in the 5th house is about your enjoyment and the way that you party, the way that you enjoy life. It could be a little bit more low profile here. But other than that, I think it's a very month of connections for you. Sagittarius, very important month for you. A lot of all of this actually is happening in mutable signs. Your mutable sign, this Mercury retrograde in your 10th house, is all about work. You're rethinking. It's a good time to reassess your work, and not necessarily that you have to shift jobs, but what is good, what is not so good, what detail of my work is working out and what is not. That's the best time here. Yes, some of you will shift work and will shift jobs, and if you're not having a job or you're not working, this has to do with how you profile yourself, how you show yourself to the world, your connection with parents as well. There's something shifting here. And Venus is in your 10th house as well, which is fantastic. If you want to have a different job, you can use your charm. And there's a lot of positivity there with the Venus transiting your 10th house as well, around career. Now, so adjustments to make your career more efficient, for sure. And because it's in Virgo and Mercury retrograde. So if you think that you're losing a lot of time by being not efficient enough, this is a time to put effort into restoring that. So this is the time to look at spreadsheets and look at the things that you do, the tasks, to analyze it all and to say, how can I work smarter? Not more, but smarter. And so definitely when Mercury goes direct in that sign, which is the 12th of September, you can have a lot of growth and a lot of big busyness with your job, especially also when you have your own business. Now, Jupiter in the 7th house, squaring Saturn in the 4th house. What is that all about? Well, you're growing through your connections because Jupiter is you are in that 7th house. Mars is there as well. Lots of activities with other people. So you could have a new romance, and an existing one could definitely have more opportunity for growth, for sure. Now, what is blocking it? Saturn in the 4th house. So this could simply mean emotional fear, not feeling secure enough. So it depends on your situation. Let's say you've been single for a long time. You could now really, really open up your heart and connect with other people. But at the same time, feel emotionally very vulnerable. And that's it. It's that pushing through. And especially when you're dating again and meeting new people. In an existing relationship, this could mean that there is growth, there is expansion, also with business partners. Definitely here, energy to connect with new business partners and to work with other people for sure. But Saturn, it's that fear that comes from within, that vulnerability of, am I emotionally secure? Because it's the 4th house. This is all about emotional security, or literally your home. There could be things that you have to do at your home, that you have to make the structure literally a bit stronger. And that is, slowing you down with all that expansion of your relationships and the growth in your business, because the 7th house is also clients. So you could be having lots of clients because of Mars, Jupiter, and what you're doing in that 10th house of the Mercury retrograde. Everything is going better and faster, but you're dealing with maybe some restructuring of your home, and that also demands energy, right? Capricorns, because you're an earth sign, this Mercury retrograde is nice for you. It's in the 9th house. It is in Virgo, but it is a retrograde. So typically for you, this could be like you're traveling, you're going back to a country that you already visited, but there's some delays there. There's some slowing down, or, you have to fly 2 hours and you have, normally you have to fly 2 hours and now you have to fly 4 hours, or whatever it is. There's some sort of a delay there. It could be that you're simply doing exams again for a same subject. That could be the retrograde there as well, that you're doing, and that's a good thing. For writers, for students, it's a very good thing for when they're having a second chance of an exam here to prepare themselves for. It's about stuff that you already learned, but that you're revisiting. It's also very good for writers, publishers, to edit and whatnot. Venus is in the 9th. You could find love by travel. You could find you could find yourself in a very lovely place whilst you're traveling, or visiting something cultural, learning something new. Whether it is a workshop of a couple of weeks or maybe something bigger, you're really, really going to love it with Venus there, for sure. Jupiter in the 6th, squaring Saturn in the 3rd. Now, this is about expansion in your 6th house. Jupiter and Mars there. It gives a lot of energy for new job, for or maybe an existing job, but more purpose there. And of course, not all of you are going to have a new job, but lots of you will have a lot of energy there for the job. And it's quite optimistic, and a busyness, definitely in Gemini. And the square there to Saturn in the 3rd has to do with the mind. So typically what can happen is that you have more work, or you're having a new job, but it demands a lot of your mind. Saturn in the 3rd, you have to learn a new IT system or whatever. You have to learn a new skill. and that demands that slows down that, that growth that you would want to have a little bit faster. But that's a typical explanation there. Saturn in the third house is about mindfulness, about how you think, and the positivity of thinking. You could have a little bit more of a hard time to do so, but do it anyways. That's definitely recommended here. Aquarians, of course, you're going to have that full moon, right? Around the 19th, you're going to feel very much what I said in the beginning of the video, because this full moon on the 19th at 27 degrees of Aquarian, so the later born Aquarians are going to feel it very strongly. It's your freedom. It's, Aquarians are here to innovate, and they are here to do things differently, for sure. That's one of the many themes for an Aquarian. But now is like this time of, and especially in relationships, there's a lot of freeing up for you, for sure. So for those of you who are sitting in a relationship that are stuck, or for those of you who have been single for years and years and years and feel stuck, there's a breakthrough here. There could be a bit of a breakdown first to break through, and that has to deal more because the Mercury retrograde is in your 8th house. So this is deep psychological, vulnerable stuff. Yes, you have Venus there in the 8th house. So again, transformation of relationships. And some of you, that could mean an ending if it's, of course, a bad relationship and you say, oh my goodness, yes, that could be the time now of the ending of that connection. For others, it could mean you opening up a bit more on a level of vulnerability, and because of that, you are more open for love as well. So especially if you've been an Aquarian that has shut yourself down a little bit because of circumstances with other relationships, now you're getting a little bit more vulnerable again. And that is a bit scary, but very freeing when it comes to receiving love and receiving that intimacy that you are craving for at the moment with Venus in your 8th house. Mercury there as well in the 8th house. A lot of thinking about strong themes like death and rebirth. So there could be an inheritance, there could be you doing actions towards sharing your resources with someone, right? You could go up a level in a relationship with from dating to living together, buying a house together. That's all 8th house stuff, It's like putting the resources together. Jupiter in your 5th house squaring to Saturn in the 2nd. Now, Jupiter in the 5th house is definitely enjoyable for love, for creativity, for expressing yourself, for hobbies. With Mars, Jupiter there, you want to do it all. And there's a lot of energy available for you, for sure, to do things that you love to do, it's a lot about boldness and things that you, all different new exciting stuff that you want to do. And but Saturn squares it up to the 2nd house, which can simply mean your resources, that it costs you a lot of money to do these things. So you might have maybe a hobby that costs a lot of money, or you want to spend a lot of money on a child. The child is growing and expanding, and you see that, but it costs a lot of money. It's as simple as that. The Saturn there in the 2nd house, it's just slowing things down, putting some stress on it. And but it's for a reason. So respect the Saturn for sure. Respect that your values, and that you're not crossing over your own values. That's a very, very important one. Last but not least, Pisceans, the 7th house. Mercury retrograde in your 7th house. This is all about relationships. This is about if you're in a relationship, it's revisiting it, it's reassessing it, it's a lot of talking and a lot of going to the nitty-gritty. And you might not really like that, but it's a good time to do it. If you're not in a relationship, it could mean that someone comes back that you were already connected to. And again, don't think, oh no, not an ex-lover. If you don't want to meet them, you shut the door, you don't open it. But this could be about people getting back into your life, and you see them through different lenses. It could also mean that a connection that you are in, and it's an important connection, becomes now something different. It could mean something more or something less. And because Mercury is the ruler of your 7th house as well. So a lot of shifts in relationships, and definitely around contracts with business partners, or that you for your business, your clients. There could be like you have a reassessment with clients, and after the Mercury goes direct, things flow again. So definitely things are going to flow better for you when it comes to relationships after the 12th of September. But now is the working time. The working, the revisiting, the slowing down of a connection, maybe a challenge that might come up, but assess it and deal with it. So after that period of time, after the 12th of September, you're way stronger with that connection. The square of Jupiter square Saturn, Jupiter in the 4th house, squaring Saturn in your 1st house. So there's a lot of expansion going on when it comes to your emotional security, when it comes to literally also your home with with Mars and Jupiter there. A lot of Pisceans are going to move to a bigger home, to a more purposeful home. And a lot of Pisceans will not move, but feel stronger in their own self. You know, it's about parenting yourself. It's about taking care of yourself. It's about, yes, I belong, and yes, I nurture myself. That is this Jupiter there. With Mars there as well, there's a lot of activity at home. There could be a lot that you're doing. Maybe you're working from home, or a lot of expansion. Now, what is holding you back? It's you, right? So you have to be aware that you are going to be your own worst critic with Saturn in your 1st house. Now, to some extent, that's not a bad thing. You know, if you want to improve yourself and if you need a little bit more boundaries in your life, this could be actually the perfect thing. But it's again the balance. Don't go over the top with your fears and it could mean Saturn in the 1st house, and especially if you have it around your ascendant. In this case, between 14 and 20 degrees of Sagittarius of Pisces. If you have degrees there, you could feel anxious. You could feel like you're insecure as well. And again, it's not about suppressing this insecurity. It's about accepting it, because you're taking a big jump and leap of faith with your emotions and with your emotional security. So for instance, a simple explanation could mean that you're going to move, Mars, Jupiter, lots of activity, but you're afraid, is this going to be the right move? This is a very human thing, and but don't let it overrule everything, okay? So use that fear in actions and in disciplined, structured actions. Now, when it comes to relationships, there could be a little bit of a tension there in an existing relationship of taking and giving. So I think with the Saturn in your 1st house, you will certainly not overdo. You know, Pisceans are very, very, you know, in general, they are known for their generosity. And so Saturn will make sure that you're not going to sacrifice, that there is this balance. So there could be some in an existing relationship, in a love relationship, that there is a bit of a take. And, you know, if there's this disbalance of the one partner is taking too much, another is giving too much, restore that. If you're not in a relationship, or it could simply mean that you have to refine that balance between in your life, what is important for me and what is important for other people, and that you have that mixture of the 50-50. Anyway, this was the monthly horoscopes for August. I wish you all the best and a great month of August, with lots of breakthroughs, you could say, and lots of working through to break through. Of course, thank you so much for watching, for subscribing, for remember the promotion there, the abundance reading. It's all in the description box below if you want to have a look at it. It's specifically around Jupiter square Saturn that I explain things specifically for your chart. Anyway, thank you so much and all the best to you. Bye-bye.